Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I have been quite sick the last week. My voice is still recovering, which you'll probably be able to hear. Hopefully it's not too bad. Sorry in advance if you don't like the raspiness. I had a whole different video planned for this week. I was going to take you guys Christmas shopping with me because this is the first year in our own place and Ellie's first Christmas, so we don't have a Christmas tree or anything, but I ended up shopping for all of that online because I could get a bunch of discounts and things. Say hi to Archie. Hello. Yeah, I ended up being able to get a bunch of discounts online, so that stuff is all on its way. So next week, hopefully, I'll be able to post a bit of a video of setting up the Christmas tree and just prepping our house for Christmas, which will be very exciting. This week instead, I thought I'd sit down and just have a chat about some items that I think are essential for babies. Obviously, I'm nearly 20 weeks pregnant. Is the bump bumping? It's bumping a little bit. Yes, I'm just about halfway through my second pregnancy, so I thought now was a good time to reflect on those newborn days from Ellie and what was really helpful, what was really essential. We're going through a big decluttering process in our house at the moment, so I'm trying to go through everything and remember, what did I actually use? What was actually helpful? What just made things a bit more difficult? So I thought I would start, and I'm gonna break this video up. I've got sort of 3 different categories today. So I've got essential items, like absolutely, I think these are 100% necessary if you're having a baby. These need to go on your list. Some of them are obvious. Actually, most of those are obvious. And then I have sort of a nice to have list of things that really made life a lot easier and were very helpful, but they're not essential. And then I've just got a few tidbits of things that you don't need, I don't think. Like if you're on a budget or you're just a bit more minimalist, these are things that I think you can probably forego. So starting off strong, you will need a cot or a bassinet or somewhere for your baby to sleep. I think if you're choosing just one thing, get a cot, because that's what your baby will probably sleep in until they're 2 or 3 years old. But I know a lot of people prefer, and I know it's the SIDS recommendation, to keep your baby in your room until they're 6 months old. That can be in a cot, again, if your space allows for it, that can be in a cot, but in a bassinet or a Moses basket or something like that. But I think if you're gonna get one place for them to sleep, get a cot, because you're going to have to move them out of the bassinet once they grow out of it, but some place for your baby to sleep. We had a Moses basket that one of our friends gave us, which was really lovely, and we used that next to our bed. But we probably only used that for the first 6 to 8 weeks before transitioning Ellie into a cot, just because Alex and I weren't getting any sleep with her in our room because of all those little newborn noises that babies make. That worked well for us. We then, transitioned her into a cot just because I didn't feel comfortable her being in the Moses basket, not in our room. But then we ended up using the Moses basket out in the main area, which transitions into my second point, which is somewhere safe to put the baby just normally during the day. Something that you've got to take into consideration with this is if you've got pets or older siblings or those sorts of things. So the Moses basket that we have, it has handles on it. That might not work if you've got older siblings there that, when I say older siblings, I mean toddler age, where they don't understand that pulling that down is actually going to make the baby roll out and hurt the baby. So that might not be something that you want to use then. So that's something that you'll need to take into consideration. Whereas something like, what are those things called? The pillows that the babies sit in. I'll put a photo up here of what I'm talking about, but that might not be safe if you've got pets and those sorts of things that, if you've got pets or kids or something that can just go and lick them or touch them or whatever. So what we had at my parents' house when we had Ellie as a newborn, my mum had bought a pack and play cot bassinet. It was a cot, bassinet, and change table combo thing. And she had that right next to their kitchen in their living area. So when we would go over and use the kitchen and everything, we would just pop Ellie in there, and it was somewhere that we could still keep an eye on her. She was safe. We didn't have to hold her, but she was out of reach of all the dogs and everybody else. So it could be a Moses basket, it could be one of those pillows, it could be a pack and play, something like that, but you'll probably want somewhere to pop your baby down safely during the day. It could be their cot in their bedroom if you feel comfortable with that. And in those newborn days, pretty much any time they're not feeding, they're asleep for those first couple of weeks. So you don't really need some place for those first couple of weeks, but just as they start to have a bit more wake time, then that's a bit more necessary. Number 3 is a car seat. Now, I'm gonna sneak in a little thing that I don't necessarily think you need, and this might be a bit controversial, but I don't think you need a capsule. I know people love their capsules, there's nothing wrong with them. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have one or anything, but if you're on a budget, you're trying to be really minimalist, again, eventually they're going to need to move into a car seat, and they can be in a car seat from newborn. So the car seat we have is from 0 to 4 years old, whereas a capsule, she would only fit in until about 6 months old, I think is the age for those. So it didn't make sense to us to get to. Now that we're having a newborn and Ellie's still gonna be so young, we could have had both and used both, but again, within the first 6 months, you right? Within the first 6 months of this baby being born, we would have needed to get them a car seat as well. So we'll probably just be buying a car seat. I'm not sure yet what we'll be getting, but yeah, I think if you're gonna buy one thing, you don't need a capsule, you do need a car seat. Again, if you wanna get a capsule, go for it. I think they're very handy, and I've seen my friends like carry their baby into church or carry their baby out to parks and those sorts of things in the capsule, and it's very handy to not have to wake them. But I also think that might be, I know other people, not these friends, but I know other people whose babies really struggle settling if they've fallen asleep in the car and then they get taken out and put back inside. And Ellie's never had an issue with that. I don't know if that's just Ellie's temperament or if it's because we have continuously woken her and then put her back that she's just gotten used to settling. I don't know. I'm not claiming to be an expert, but anyway, point is you don't need a capsule, you do need a car seat. You do need, I think, some sort of swaddle or wrap, something to help your baby sleep. I think just the normal, oh, have I got one over there? I have, it's too far away. Just the normal muslin wraps, I think, are great for this. Something that you can wrap your baby up tightly. I know some people don't like swaddling, but for us that worked really well. A swaddle and a dummy. I think a swaddle works really well. The muslin cloths as well, if you get some of the nice quality ones, they can double as burp cloths and things. So that's sort of a 2 birds, 1 stone situation. I do think that that is necessary because if it's the middle of the night and your baby isn't settling, they've been fed, they've been burped, they've got a clean nappy, and you just want something to calm them down, swaddling will almost always work in my experience. I've only had one baby. Your experience might be different, but I think it's something that is worth trying anyway. So I think a swaddle or a wrap, a muslin wrap, something like that is essential. And lastly, you of course need baby clothes. I think I'm gonna do a series on TikTok about this, about what clothes I actually think you need, how many, what size, all that sort of stuff. Yes, you definitely need some sort of clothing for your baby. And one thing I would say is you need to think about layers. So if it's a cold morning, I know for me, if I'm dressing for a cold morning when I know it's getting to 30 degrees later in the day, I probably won't bother bringing a jacket with me. I'll just wear a t-shirt, whatever. However, for a baby, they can't regulate their temperature. So they'll need those layers. They need those then to be stripped off during the day so that they don't overheat. It also makes things easier overnight if they have layers because you don't need to worry so much about all the togs and things in the sleep sacks, which I'll get into. But if you have more layers to put on them underneath their sleep sacks or their wraps or whatever, you don't need to worry about blankets and all of that. And blankets is a whole other thing as well. So those were my 5 essentials that you absolutely need to have. A cot, a safe place to put your baby during the day, a car seat, a swaddle, and baby clothes. There are of course other things you need like nappies, wipes, etc. On the topic of the safe place to put your baby, my first thing in the nice to have section is some sort of baby carrier. For Ellie, this worked really well. We had this, let me grab it. We had this Moby wrap. It's all tied up at the moment, but it's just this really long wrap that then you tie around, you put the baby in, and they're all close to you. And for us, this was great in the newborn stage. At about 3 weeks old, Ellie started to wake up and she wouldn't settle just putting her down. She wouldn't stay asleep. She needed us to be carrying her. So the wrap was something that worked really well because it meant that I had my hands free. I could actually go and make breakfast. I could go to the bathroom. I could go and do things. and I didn't feel as tied down and as much like I needed to sit down. So that really made a world of difference for my mental health during that newborn stage, just being able to actually stand up and move around and go to the shops and do things like that and know that my baby was comfortable and asleep. As she got older, just slightly older, we ended up getting gifted, from the same friends as the Moses basket, we ended up getting gifted a carrier that was a bit more structured. That was great for going on walks and things, and that worked great as well because Ellie wasn't really a fan of the pram. She's getting into that now, but she wasn't then. So I think especially for baby number 2, because I'll have Ellie to chase around, I think these wraps are going to be really great. Since we have a dog, we'll have Ellie. I don't really want to be placing the baby down too much for those sorts of things. For naps and things, yeah, but just during everyday activities, if the baby's comfortable on me, I think that would be really nice. Another thing, very nice to have, I did say before that the muslin cloths could double as burp cloths, but these were our favorite burp cloths. They're just the big softies cloth nappies from Big W. They're just these big cloths. They're great. You can chuck them over your shoulder and they soak up all the spit up. As Ellie's been getting older as well, they've just been great for cleaning up general baby messes, whether it's from food that she's spilled or whatever. They're just great to have as little rags. So I would definitely recommend those. You don't want those little burp cloths that you see on TikTok. I never got them, but from experiencing a baby throwing up and having this cloth, and like sometimes she would throw up so much that it would fall off of this cloth. I can't imagine having one of those little cloths. It just wouldn't work. So burp cloths, I think they're bordering on essential, but I've put them in the nice to have category. Now I've got 2 recommendations to do with feeding. One for bottle feeding, one for breastfeeding. So if you are breastfeeding, you've heard it before, I think the Hukka is an amazing invention for milk collection, for letdown. I had a lot of letdown from one side and not a lot from the other, but with the Hukka, that is exclusively what I was able to get any sort of freezer stash from. And when I switched to pumping, I'll have to do a whole video. Oh. Nope, not gonna sneeze. Okay. I'll have to do a whole video on my breastfeeding journey to explain everything that happened. But when I was exclusively breastfeeding at first, the Hukka, I would get 100 mils sometimes of letdown, which was insane because then I ended up stopping breastfeeding because I didn't have any supply. But yeah, I would get a crazy amount of letdown, and then that was what was in our freezer that we were then able to help wean Ellie onto formula exclusively. The Hukka, great. Some sort of breast pads as well. Again, you might find, I know women who don't have a lot of letdown, who don't have any leakage. For me, overnight, I had so much leakage. I would literally wake up in a puddle. I think it's better to just have the breast pads in case you need them and not need to use them. Get 1 pack of disposable breast pads if you're not sure if you're gonna need them. But once you know you need them, you want a lot of them. Last time I only used disposable breast pads because I had so many, and I think I'd been gifted a lot and I'd bought a lot. By the time I stopped breastfeeding, I'd only just ran out of the disposable ones. This time I am planning to try and breastfeed again, and I'm going to get the reusable ones. I just think it'll save money. But yes, breast pads I think are very, very good to have on hand just in case you need them. A Hukka, again, it's not necessary, and you don't need to collect your letdown. If you're exclusively breastfeeding, or if you're happy combo feeding and just breastfeeding whatever the baby gets directly from you, you don't need to collect your letdown. Don't let TikTok make you think you need to have some sort of giant freezer stash or whatever. But if you want to collect your letdown, I think the Hukka is a great way to do that. I think it also works quite well to help relieve blocked milk ducts. I've seen that as well. I only had to do that once and the Hukka didn't really help me, but it was really far up the blocked milk duct. So I don't know, that might work. Again, it might be something that you'd like to have on hand just in case you need it. But that's up to you. If you're on a budget, I wouldn't say it's a necessary item. Now, if you are bottle feeding, doesn't matter what bottles you have, I would say this Hukka bottle brush has been a game changer. We hand washed all of our babies' bottles until probably a week ago. We didn't necessarily sterilize them all the time. This bottle brush has been amazing. At first we just had one of the plastic ones from Kmart. I think we actually had 2 different bottle brushes, and both of them snapped because the wire in sort of this connector part here, it was just a wire, and when you're aggressively cleaning out the bottles and getting in all the curves and edges, it just ended up like wearing it out and it snapped off. This is metal, it's a silicone, it's great, it's not gonna break. I feel like the bottles get actually a lot cleaner, so I would recommend this for sure. We had a baby swing, again, that got gifted to us, that we borrowed from a friend. A baby swing that was really great at settling Ellie in those early days. It was like a battery automated, you guys know how a swing works. Yeah, it went like that. And in that newborn stage, we were able to just pop her in that, and that would help settle her. I know for other people's babies, they don't necessarily work, but some sort of swing or bouncer or soothing device, I think is really, really great in that newborn stage. Another thing, might be a bit controversial. For us, this is a must-have. We're gonna get more for the next baby. You don't need them. Cloth nappies. These have worked great for us. Obviously, you need some sort of nappies. These have worked out to be really cost effective for us. I think for the first 3 months of Ellie's life, she was in normal disposable nappies, and then we fully transitioned to these by 4 months. And now she only wears disposables on the days that she goes to daycare. But we have these, they're really great. They have these rise snaps down the front to change the size, and then these snaps, so that's to change like the leg hole size, and then these snaps around the top to change the waist size. They've got inserts in them that have all the absorbency. We really love these. Very easy to manage for us. It ends up being about 1 extra load of laundry a day, which sounds like a lot, but for us, it's just we pop them in the machine at night or the next morning, pop the load on, and we forget about it. So we love them. Again, you don't need them, but for us, this is definitely in like a nice to have / essential category. I do think you save money with them. I don't think they're that much more difficult. I'm not gonna say they're not more work. Obviously, it's more work to have to wash these at all than just take off a nappy, chuck it in the bin, but I love them. That's all I have to say about that. Baby bath seat. Again, it's not essential. As a newborn, you can hold them, you can take them in the shower with you, whatever. I actually found the shower worked really well when I was breastfeeding and Ellie got a little bit snuffly. The shower was really great to actually breastfeed her in the shower. It helped clear out her nose and everything with the steam. So showers are great. Now we usually just shower with her when we're at home, but we give her baths at my parents' house and Alex's parents' house. The shower is completely fine. You don't need to bath your baby, but if you would like to, and we did in the newborn stage most of the time, a baby bath seat like this Angel Care bath seat works really, really well. We did have one that I could show you, but we borrowed it from a friend and they've now had a second baby, so they've got that back at the moment. But yes, it's another really handy one. The other thing is though, you can just put the baby in the bath with a little bit of water. Obviously you have to stay there and watch them the entire time, whether you've got the bath seat or not, but you can just lay them down. In that newborn stage, they're not rolling over or whatever, but even when they get to the rolling stage, they normally have the self-preservation to not roll over. But again, watch them anyway. Finally, something else you will probably want is, once you do transition out of that swaddle stage, is some sort of sleep sack. These are the Ergo Pouch ones. This one's a 3.5 tog. So this is, I think, the warmest one that they have. This is what I was saying about layers with clothing. At the moment, with it starting to warm up, we have the 3.5 tog and a 1 tog. With it starting to warm up, we're still able to have her in the 3.5 tog with just a nappy on overnight, and she's still warm enough. She's not too warm. She sleeps really great in these because they have a bit of weight to them. Like they're not weighted, but they do have just that bit of, like a blanket, like how a blanket is weighted. Not a weighted blanket, but the weight of a blanket, if that makes sense. They're just, yeah, I think they just help her sleep. So we have these, we have 2 3.5 togs because we bought them during winter and I wasn't sure how long she would fit in these. This one is size 3 0 to 1, so 3 to 12 months. which is quite a big age range, so that's quite good. And then I think they have like a 6 to 18 month size, and then like a 1 to 3 year or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but you get a temperature guide when you buy them. They've been really great. So Ergo Pouch sleep sacks, I've really loved them, but I don't think you need every tog. I don't think you need 10 of them. As I said, we've got, I think, 2 1.0 togs and 2 3.5 togs, and then we adjust her clothing underneath because you're gonna want the different layers of clothing anyway. You don't need all the different sleep sacks. Now, I just wanted to de-influence you on a couple of things that I really don't think you do need for the newborn stage. One thing is a fancy nappy cream. So many videos that I've watched before, they're either sponsored by or whatever, they have a fancy nappy cream that they keep saying you need, and it ends up being $30 for this tiny little tube, and I fell for it. I bought one of them and it's actually been awful. It actually hasn't worked at all. I'm not going to name drop it, but my opinion is if you're going to get a nappy cream before the baby comes, which you probably should just to have one set aside in case they do get some sort of nappy rash, just get pseudo-creme or pseudo-cream or however it's pronounced. If you're worried about the ingredients, you can go for a more natural one, but just get one of the normal ones at the pharmacy. I think going and getting one of the fancy ones when you don't even have your baby yet, like if you have your baby and you find out that they've got really sensitive skin, then go and get one of the sensitive skin ones. Go and get one with the different ingredients. But if you're not sure, just get pseudo-creme. See how your baby goes with that. It's just the right thickness. It clears everything up. In our experience, it's been the best one. It also seems to deal with temperature changes a lot more. We have a pseudo-creme in our nappy bag. The nappy bag is going to end up going in a hot car and then going in some cold park and that sort of thing. And the pseudo-creme has held up. This other nappy cream that the pseudo-creme has held up. This other nappy cream that we've got has just split and turned to oil and everything. And I know it would say on the package to not have it at certain temperatures, but it's just not realistic. You're not going to take your nappy cream out of the nappy bag, take it into the house with you when you leave the nappy bag in the car. It's just not going to happen. So I don't think you need a fancy nappy cream. I also have 3 things that I just think less is better. I don't think you need a bunch of toys. That's the first one, especially if we're talking about the newborn or even like the 0 to 6 month stage. I think people buy lots of toys, lots of bits and pieces. I know some people are like really worried about their kids' development. At that age, I don't think you're gonna break them. I don't think a lack of toys is going to break your kid or mean that they're not interested or whatever. I need to find this study, but there was a study that said like 40-something% of kids can only play, and this is in the like 1 to 3, like in the toddler age, they can only play with 7 to 10 toys at a time. You'll hear this study mentioned all the time on TikTok and everything, with people talking about toy rotations. I think at this young age, you don't need to do a toy rotation because they can barely focus on like one thing at a time. Ellie, we will pass different toys and she gets so excited. She's 9 months old now, so we're just starting to get to that age where I'm starting to think about setting up a toy rotation for her and having that already. But yeah, I just don't think you need a bunch of toys. A couple toys would be great. We had a kick mat for Ellie when she was younger and that worked really, really great. She loved that. It had different lights and things, and yeah, that was great. Otherwise, kids love just random stuff. You've got to remember everything is new for a kid. Ellie loves containers, like IKEA, like food containers. I will just give Ellie a stack of those and she will play with them for like 40 minutes. And I know that that's the temperament of my child. I know other kids won't necessarily focus for that long and that sort of thing. But Ellie, like I have this pack in front of me, this pack of Bible highlighters that like wash off really easily. She hasn't learned to open the lid yet, but she will just play with these, grab 2 out and just do that for 20 minutes. She doesn't need a bunch of different toys for her development or whatever. So yeah, I just think less is better. With toys, the other 2 things are blankets and sheets. We were very, very kindly gifted a lot of blankets, a lot of cot sheets. We just haven't used them. With blankets, I think like 3 would be good because you can't really put a blanket in a baby's bed at this age. It's like a SIDS risk, like blankets and toys and things. You don't really put them in a baby's bed at this age. having one in the car maybe for outings, in the pram, and then maybe one around the house to warm them up. A few is fine, but I think if you've got lots and lots, that's probably something you can cull. That's definitely something that we're culling as we prepare for this next baby. And the cot sheets, that was just another thing that we probably, like, you definitely want more than one, because if the baby spits up or something or wheezes in the middle of the night when you're trying to change them in the cot, like, you need more than one. But again, I would say probably 3 or 4 is sufficient. But anyway, let me know what you think. That is all that I have to say. That's all of my opinions for today. Please let me know in the comments if you disagree with anything that I said, or what would you have added to the list? What newborn essentials, nice to have, or items that you don't really think you need, what would you have added to the list? I'm really interested to know, because as I said, we are coming up on the halfway mark now with baby number 2. So I'm really curious to see what you guys think we should get, what we didn't have last time. Yeah, let me know in the comments. Go ahead and follow me on TikTok and Instagram. As I said, I'm gonna start a bit of a series on what clothing I actually think you need during this newborn to 12-month stage. So please stay tuned for that. I know that's one of the big questions that first-time mums and dads have is, how do I actually dress my newborn? There's so much online. So hopefully that helps a few people. But as I said, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.